All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I am here with Goose,
What's up?
Gabe, and special guest Joel Berrocal. Thank you for joining us. Impact. In this episode, we have special guest, as mentioned, Joel Berrocal. The crew discusses influence and impact on others. We talk about hurricane relief, the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, entrepreneurship, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Anita Roddick and Jane Fonda. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. With that being said, we're kicking things off with a definition from dictionary.com, and we define the word impact. They define it as to have an effect on, influence, or alter. All right, let's jump right into it. So, as mentioned, Joel Berrocal is here with us today. Thank you for joining us, sir. If you could really quick, let us know who you are and what you do.
Thanks for having me, Jim. So by profession, I'm an insurance broker, but my passion is working with, as you said, the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, which is my nonprofit. Our initiative that we started in DC, and we're really trying to get the ground rolling. So I'd like to, just discuss some stuff we have going on, some goals we have, that's pretty much me, man.
Nice. And I know, you have a beautiful daughter and you're recently married.
Thank you. Yeah, yep. 2 weeks in, man. She hasn't killed me yet. So,
Nice.
so I think we're good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very cool. All right, actually, I know we wanted to, jump into this Forbes.com article, but before we do, I kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit. And does anyone we want to go around, or anyone want to define impact? We know dictionary.com defines it as to have an effect on, influence. But does anyone have like a definition for themselves? What impact means?
I kind of look at it in terms of how I do what motivates me. I look at it as like value.
Yes.
Everything I do, you see what I do on social media, what I do in the community. I look at, I'm bringing value, standing out, whether it's as an insurance professional, as an activist in a nonprofit. It's all about bringing value to the table.
Definitely.
And being a positive influence on my community.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how I look at it. That's my goal,
Yeah, and I think that's the huge value we always talk about all the time, is having a positive impact. So a lot of times, there's people have different agendas, and some of them are not good, right?
Absolutely.
And they have a negative impact on the the community, where the overall goal for us for this podcast, as you mentioned, you as being an activist, having a positive impact with all the stuff that we're doing, from Rotated Views to Motivation Files to the Blessed Lifestyle brand, all that has that positive impact to change and influence the people around us in our community. So very cool. All right, so as you know, we wanted to kick things off with a article from Forbes. And it's really quick. We don't have to get crazy in depth with it. Forbes always has excellent articles. But this one I picked up is titled 9 Core Behaviors of People Who Positively Impact the World. If I could find the DVD, I will try to read it off to you all. But every time I hear impact, there's this DVD. It's like the influencers of our time or something like that. It is one of the most awesome DVDs ever. It's packed with Billy Graham, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, all these wildly impactful people of our time, or within the I think it was within the last 100 years or something. Pretty cool. All right, so cool. So let's jump right into it. So I guess the first one is they commit to continually bettering themselves. People who impact the world for the better know that they are not perfect. They understand that their knowledge isn't complete. There are always gaps, biases, limitations, and prejudices, and new places to go with their expertise. I know last week we talked about, you going to, and all of us going to, events where we're getting knowledge, fresh off the press kind of thing. I know you go to, different events where you're learning from the leaders of that industry, staying on the cutting edge, in Gabe's case would be, cutting edge technology.
Sure.
But for us, it's the information realm. So, what do you think about that? Commit to continually bettering themselves.
I mean, me personally, in terms of insurance, I take the first 15 minutes out of my day and read an article on something insurance related, on a product that's new, what's going on in the industry, type of policy I didn't know about, something different every day. Take 15 minutes to start my day, learn something new.
Nice.
Every day.
Nice. I like it. Absolutely. That's perfect. All right. The second thing, they engage with people in open, mutually beneficial ways. I mean, I think you could spring right on into that. Can you actually talk about your practice a little bit? What it consists of, kind of what the layout is, how many of you all are in the office?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's our office is called the Ratcliffe Insurance Group. It's actually 3 of us. Dave and Scott, who are the owners, and then they brought me on board 6 months ago from State Farm. So we're an independent broker.
Right.
We carry over 15 different companies. We do commercial, personal lines, health, life, everything. Pretty much, if you come through my door, we could find something for you.
Sure.
And that's something I pride myself in. We pride ourselves in is, unlike other companies where sometimes you can't write a certain policy or anything like that, we pride ourselves in always being able to basically being able to place you somewhere. We're never going to have to turn you away, basically, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of goes back to the value thing. That's something we always take up. If you come through the door, we're writing you.
Absolutely.
That's how we look at it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure being around those guys, you're learning something new every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's, who you surround yourself around with, we were talking about that last week as well. And engaging with these people, who have the same, heart where they want to go and head in business. Number 3, they invest time and energy not in what is, but what can be. That's pretty straightforward. They embrace critique. That's number 4. Number 5, they spread what they know. So this is one that I like to, stop and pause on. Spreading what they know is perfectly what we do here.
Sure.
In the Rotated Views podcast. Obviously, some of the little products that I've been coming out with is kind of spreading the knowledge that I have. That's how this whole thing with me started off in 2006. For those of you who don't know, I was introduced to the personal development industry, and from there, my mind just sprocketed off to just complete fascination. I have a little mini library that's double layered with books, and which I took and sold half of my library just to, trying to practice minimalism is really tough for me. But anyway, so it was one of those things. I wanted to share. So back in 2015, in the anniversary, I was coming up on 9 years in this industry, trying to figure things out, and I had blogs and all this other stuff. That's when I did the motivation files, the part
initial
1,
one, yeah.
The initial one. But sharing that, whether it was a good product or not a good product,
sure.
It was my attempt in sharing, what I do, and I never stopped. From there, obviously, it started beyond. And I know for you, Joel, you post a lot on social media. A lot of the stuff is like these little business groups, and you post quotes, you recommend books, you ask questions. Does that go along with this spread what you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to, I have this knowledge, and like I said, I want to be a source of value to my clients, but also to the community. And social media is such a powerful tool. It's a free resource.
Yeah.
So you take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
It's just, it's something I try to make sure I'm posting daily, just stay in everybody's, basically stay in your face with knowledge. And I hope that I'm providing value and not, annoying people or anything like that. But,
absolutely. I think you're right. You said something huge there. It's being an actual resource, providing that value. That's way different, exactly what you're saying, than just, blasting and spamming, people's timelines or whatever with just garbage, really. I mean, there's people just really, one thing's putting your business out there. One thing's negatively putting your business out there in a bad way. And then the next, day you're putting, it's just this roller coaster of post that there's number 1, there's no consistency, right? Number 2, it's that's your brand, and that's what you're telling people. That's what your brand is.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, not to say we don't go through things. Everyone goes through things. It's just a matter of, you know, how we handle them. Right. But anyway, it's you know, it's very, you know, you're right. Social media is a huge and, you know, powerful tool. All right, moving on. The next one's they uplift others as they ascend. Pretty straightforward. The other one is they view the journey as a goal. And then the last one, I believe, is they use their power and influence well. I like to combine these two. They view their journey as a goal. They use their power and influence well. That kind of goes along with, you know, your you know, and we'll get more into it. But you being an activist, as you stated, is what happens. But now that it's, you know, we're in election, you know, this election season, and, you know, going through the political realm of this wildness that we're living in, and just trying to digest it and be proactive in making a difference. You start to wonder. I don't know if you guys do this, but I always think, well, if I was in office or if I had this role, I would do X, Y, and Z, or I would try to do X, Y, and Z. And that comes down to intentions. And what are your intentions now are just going to basically be magnified if you ever do get power and influence, right? We always talk about the person who wins the lottery or gets a lot more money, right, are just going to be a magnified version of themselves now. People always say, oh, when I get so much X, Y, and Z money, I'm going to share with this person, this person, this person. Well, what are you doing now? Even if it's not a lot, it doesn't have to be money, but are you sharing things with, you know what I'm saying? People think they're, like, the way they think and operate is going to completely change. It's not. You're the same person, especially if you won it by lottery, right?
Yeah. You ain't ready for that.
No, you're definitely not ready for that.
Well, it goes to I heard it say, you know, a lot of people say when they look at when you know, like in history class or something, and you say, oh, this guy did this or this guy did that, and you know, in your head you say, oh, if I was alive back then, this is what I would have done. Yeah. It's not true.
Not true.
What you're doing now is what you would have did.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and that's kind of how it's kind of the same thing what you were saying. You know.
Yeah. It's if you're not taking it, because listen, every era doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not talking about severity, but there's issues that are going on in the world, in your community, in your little realm, that you can act on to make for the better, right? To retrospect and say you would have done X, Y, and Z is just asinine. I mean, there's no way. So what do you do? Because there's a lot of issues that are going on now, and I'm not comparing any of the issues to each other because they all have different weights to them. But if you're that type of person to say, oh, I'm going to, or I would have done this, this, or this. Okay, so do what you just said in a different aspect. Because there's somebody or some situation that needs help.
Yeah.
And they need someone to stand for them and speak for them and have the voice and have the mouthpiece. You know, and a lot of us, especially in America, we have that. Just as you said, we have a free forms of media to actually take these stands, and hopefully we're not abusing them in a sense where we're putting out our garbage. Instead, we're using them to either put out a positive business or put out a positive word or share family photos, all positive things, right? That's how you're going to be making your difference. Maybe your mouthpiece wouldn't be, marching with, on a strike or something like that, back in the day, but maybe it is virtually, right? In a virtual manner. And I know that might sound really bizarre, but there have been surveys. What's that website where you can sign petitions, or
I think it is
petition.org or something like that.
Is it We Are Change or something like that?
Yeah, there's a couple of them where legitimate,
change.org or something.
Change.org. Like legitimate, things have come from that, and that's from you taking a stand.
And even if those usually petition sites don't really go anywhere, at least it's bringing awareness to what the issue is. If anything.
Sure, I think that really is the main goal for them.
Yes.
Obviously awareness is key with a lot of that.
You can have a whole bunch of dummy accounts signing petitions, but I mean, but at least people are acknowledging it now.
Right. All All right, cool. So let's switch gears back to our guest, Joel Berrocal. You know, in a little bit more detail, can you talk a little bit about your day job and who you're looking to serve truly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I take a lot of pride in serving the Latino community. I feel they're one of the biggest demographics in the population that's just vastly underserved.
Yeah.
And I see it on a day-to-day basis. I'm not the most Hispanic looking guy in the world. So when they come in, not really speaking very good English, they come in nervous. They think they might get taken advantage of. And then I come in speaking Spanish, and suddenly you see it on their face.
relief.
Like, oh man, now I'm good. I'm here for life.
Yeah.
Referring all my cousins now. They're all coming here.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much these people were taken advantage of by other insurance agents, by other financial professionals. So I take pride in, and unfortunately, it's a bad thing, but it's a reality. Is that a lot of the Latinos, especially ones who come from other countries, like who immigrated to the country, aren't very financially literate.
Sure.
So I do take pride in not just taking care of their insurance, but educating them.
Sure.
And that goes back to the Facebook groups too. Is that especially the business one? I like to be a resource of provide value. They need a roofer, I have one.
Yeah.
A Spanish speaking roofer, I have it. They need a plumber, they need a painter, they need whatever they have. I like to be that resource, so they know they could come to me, and I can help them out with whatever they need.
Yeah.
And that's something I always take pride in, and I get a lot of satisfaction from doing that. You
Nice.
know?
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what is one thing you want people to know or understand about the insurance business?
That's a good question. Basically, that rates are going to keep going up. That's a question I get 2-3 times a day.
Yeah.
All the companies, it's just the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, with these cars are basically moving computers nowadays.
Yeah.
Where you hit a little fender bender that maybe 15 years ago cost $1,000. Today it costs $3,000 because now that bumper that before was just a bumper, now there's wires and cameras and everything.
Yeah.
And with people in this day and age, with people texting and distractions, and now you have these expensive cars, it's just unfortunately insurance is going up and it's going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
So
you're telling people to go make more money?
Yeah, basically. Come to me. Because if your rates go up, I have a company for it.
Nice.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Give them options.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. All right. So what do you think the biggest misconception is?
I think the biggest misconception with us is that we're just almost like used car salesmen.
Yeah.
Like an insurance. I get offended by that. I take pride in when I go to sleep at night, I feel I could rest my head easy because I did a good job.
Yeah.
I'm looking to educate my customers, hopefully save them a little bit of money, get them some better coverage, and, the money on top, that's gravy for me, but that's not why I do what I do. You know what I mean?
Right,
and a lot of people have that we're these snakes trying to cheat people when it's just not, at least in my case, I can't speak for everybody.
Sure.
But in my case, I kind of take offense to that whole used car salesman mentality. So for me, I'd say that's the biggest misconception with insurance agents. So
let me ask you, can you explain something which I obviously don't understand, but I'm trying to get a better understanding of? When does one need flood insurance? Because this always confuses me. No, because I have my brother-in-law, his in-laws, they have flood insurance, right? And I have no idea what their policy was or is, but then they thought they're doing the right thing. They got flooded. They're like right by a creek or something.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's like a footage or something. You can explain that. But they're saying like, it doesn't cover X, Y, and Z, and they're like freaking out. But in my mind, I think it's cause it's what your, which, policy you picked. I think that's how it goes. Yeah. But at what point and what's the minimum or, when someone's like, all right, I got flood insurance. So the reason why I'm asking is obviously that's one of them. I remember when we were house shopping, that was, our realtor kept telling, all right, think about it. You also got to think you might need house insurance. I'm not sure. I mean, house insurance, flood insurance for this property because it's X, Y, and Z. Now that was years ago and I don't remember, what the footage was, but can you, briefly explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, So first of all, all flood insurance is done by the government. I could sell it to you, but it's not a product. It's not one of my companies. It's done through the government.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's not through private insurance or anything like that. Anybody can purchase flood insurance at any time. Now, how it works is that either your mortgage company, if you decide to purchase a house in a flood zone, then your mortgage company can require it. If you're in an X, that means you're not in a flood zone. Majority of the houses are not in flood zones. So you can purchase flood insurance at a very reasonable rate that's not going to kill you. Okay. When you're in an AE zone, that's considered a flood zone, which means your mortgage company is going to require you to purchase. Now, when you have to purchase in an AE, that's where you get expensive flood insurance. And that's kind of where people are like, oh, man, where in a lot of cases, the flood insurance costs more than the home insurance policy that they got. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of but usually your mortgage company would let you know. My advice, if they don't require it, don't buy it. Yeah. Save yourself the money, especially in this neck of the woods, at least.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears, as I mentioned, can you explain to everyone what is the NPRCC?
Yeah, absolutely. The National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. It's a nonprofit organization started in D.C. by my cousin Justin. It's basically an organization designed to encourage entrepreneurship on the island and on the mainland. Basically, it boils down to we're trying to keep Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Give them a reason to stay there. Yeah. That's one of the biggest takeaways I had when I was just there in June is that lack of hope, that pessimism, that man, there's no future here. Yeah. And I don't blame any of them for wanting to leave. They're looking for a better opportunity. But what we're trying to do, and like I said earlier, we're starting an initiative here in the PA, Jersey area. We want to give them a reason to stay on the island. And if they do come here, we want to put them in the best position to succeed here. Gotcha. And that's kind of what we're doing. We have tons of things going on. That could be a whole nother show of all the stuff we got going on.
Sure. It's interesting because there's I don't know if you guys know them or if, you guys watch anything with the finances and stay in that realm. But there's a guy by the name of Peter Schiff. Anyway, so he has his own many companies. But I remember it was wild as it could be. Summer of last year, I was actually driving home and he was on, I forget what podcast it was. That we were listening to, or that I was listening to, and Peter Schiff was on there. So Peter Schiff was talking about he took all his companies to Puerto Rico, and actually he lives in Puerto Rico. I don't know if after the hurricane and after all this other stuff, I have no idea what happened after that. But this was literally 2 months before everything happened, and that the hurricane hit. He was explaining all the benefits of why one would go to Puerto Rico and conduct their businesses there. And I'm telling you, I get the chills now. This guy had me convinced. I still am convinced. But it was just wild to think. He's not Puerto Rican. This guy is, I think his background is an Irishman, and he loves Puerto Rico. His whole staff resides there. He brings them over, and he explained all the tax. There's all these crazy tax benefits and all.
Well, I can speak on that. He's what he's referring to is called Act 20 and 22. So to help start businesses, the government created these taxes. So, but the loophole is that you cannot be originally born in Puerto Rico. Okay. You have to be. It has to be the first time you're living in Puerto Rico, and you're almost completely tax exempt. So, so for the first time people coming over, it's a gold mine. Yeah. My only knock with it is natural born Puerto Ricans can't benefit from it. Wow. Gotcha. And the only way they benefit is somebody else coming, like this gentleman did, and hiring. Puerto Rican natives. So that's how they benefit from it. Gotcha. But that'd be my only knock against it. But otherwise, it's been pretty successful in drawing new business, creating new jobs. So hopefully they could keep it going and maybe get that economy rolling again, start growing.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. And I think it depends on the type of business it is. But I don't see why you wouldn't hire native. They're already there. They're already
highly
familiar.
educated,
Exactly.
motivated.
Right. There's a hunger there of wanting to succeed, and I don't know. I, honestly, like from what he was saying, and to be honest, I don't know who he hires and doesn't hire. But I do see your point, and you know the opportunities there. But definitely something worth looking, you know, further into for anyone, you know, looking into. So it's Act 20 and Act 22.
Act 20 and Act 22, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so please discuss, you know, your work with the NPRCC as the, you know, Southeastern PA president.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, like I said, this is something we're really just trying to get off the ground right now. At this point, in this part of the country, our initiative right now is really, I'm trying to find the contacts, I'm trying to find the support to really get something going. Looking to coordinate with other nonprofits, other people who are looking to see Puerto Rico do well. So that's really what we're doing at the moment. But in DC, Justin has a lot of other stuff going on. Basically, where before you remember, you were a big part of it on our relief efforts last year. They kind of shifted away from that at this point, where last year we were, you know, people were just trying to survive. Yeah. And now this year we've shifted it more to basically restarting. To, okay, you know, Jimmy Lee had the corner store. Now we're worried about getting that back up and running.
Gotcha.
Getting him the funding that he needs, the grants, repairing the shop, and really getting the ball rolling and getting these people back to work, getting these companies, you know, getting the tax base back. So yeah, that's the gist of what we got going on here. But like I said, we have so many things. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned it, and you know I was a small part of it. But can you talk about the hurricane relief efforts and what your role with that? Yeah. Actually, can you speak about what hurricane we're referring to?
Yeah. Well, we're referring to Hurricane Maria. That passed in I guess it was October of last year. So it all started where the days after you started hearing the horror stories, and you know, I didn't think it would ever turn into what it did. And I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, I told her, you know, I was on my way to work, and I said, babe, look up some fundraisers or something, somewhere we could, if I did like a beef and beer or something, we could donate. So, you know, I put it out on Facebook. Again, it shows the power of Facebook. And I said, hey, look, I want to do something. I don't know what. I want to do something. Who would be interested in helping? And the support was crazy. And so then, yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I literally just got chills.
Yeah, and it got ridiculous. So then my cousin Hermie, he gave me a call and he said, hey, we have this food festival going on. You know, I heard you want to do something. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's combine our efforts.
Yeah. And
we went from there, and I went on board, got all my support. Then we had the event, and you know, we were hoping, and in the meetings and stuff, we were hoping for, I don't know, to raise $3,000, maybe get 200 people there. Yeah. Turned out over 600 people showed up, and we raised that night alone. We raised $14,000. Wow,
so crazy!
It's crazy. And then with the work with the corporate sponsors for the Chamber of Commerce, that amount was matched. It was doubled. That's awesome. You know, $28,000 right there. And then we did other things. We did the softball that you guys organized, you and your brothers. We had a couple other table events and stuff. All in all, that got us another, I don't know, $6,000 or so. All in all, Bristol raised $20,000, and then every penny was matched. So. $40,000.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
That is so
when I think about it, it's still like, you know, it gives me, like you said, it gives me chills.
Dude, they just keep coming over here.
And to this day, I'm still getting checks here and there. You know, wow. Oh, you guys still doing stuff for? I'm saying, absolutely. So wow. That's awesome. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Made a lot of lifelong friends. People who I knew, like you guys, you know, I knew you guys, you know, all my life, but you know, I felt like everybody came together like I've never seen before. It was amazing. Right. Absolutely amazing.
So if someone wanted to continue to help out or donate to those efforts, where would they go?
They could reach out to me. I can, you know, if you wanted to write a check or something, I could instruct you on where you could just make it out to the chamber. To, you know, the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, and just get in contact with me, and I can let you know where to drop it off, or, you know.
Perfect. Was there anything? I know there's a lot of topics we're trying to hit here tonight, but is there anything else you want to talk about? With the chamber before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, when you going back to your previous question about what we're trying to, what we have going on, something that I personally, an idea that came to me was in those days leading, those initial days after the hurricane. It was almost impossible to get stuff to Puerto Rico. Well, not impossible to get it to Puerto Rico, but to get it to the people that it needed. So you all saw the news. Yeah. You saw how the big containers were stuck there in San Juan, not getting anywhere. So what we started doing was we just started using the post office. We got the FedEx flat or the post office flat rate boxes, and I was just shipping them to individual people. Real grassroots, and it was effective. It wasn't the we weren't sending a large quantity of things, but it was effective and it was getting to where it needed to go.
Right.
So the idea that I came up with, or that I'm trying to put together, is to kind of create an infrastructure of nonprofit organizations here on the mainland and on the island, and kind of have a network ready to go. So in the event something like this happens, we could kind of hit that grassroots, the same type of donations, but have the system in place and have those nonprofits all over the island ready to go. Okay, boom, I know where to send. If I want to send something to Lares, I'm sending it to Jimmy Lee. If I want to send it to San Juan, okay, I know I got Miguel, I'm sending it right to him, So that's something I'm really trying to work on, having that infrastructure ready to go. God forbid it doesn't happen again, but if it does, I want to be ready to hit the ground running,
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, and you know what? It's one of those things where obviously, clearly, the island was blindsided by it. You're in that territory, but you don't know, the level of, severity one thing can hit. Mother Nature is Mother Nature, and the devastation that it is created is like physically scarred. But what do you do with those scars? It's like one of those things. How can we grow, seeking the positivity out of this? If there could be anything, what can we do? And it's this level of preventative thinking for the next time this happens, that it's like, and it's no wonder this is coming from an insurance guy who's thinking ahead in that sense, which is kind of funny. But that's just genius. I mean, but reality is the possibility is there, right?
With climate change and everything.
Yeah, you don't know. It's Mother Nature, right? It's just crazy, but yeah, that's awesome. And again, as always, let us know if there's any way we can help or anything that we can do. Always here. All right, so switching gears up one more time. Can you talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and what projects you're currently involved in or looking to get involved in?
With entrepreneurship, insurance is probably. Basically, when I used to work at FedEx, basically. So I was looking for industries where you could kind of be your own boss. You could kind of have that. And I always went back to insurance because insurance provides me with basically the flexibility where I can make a great living financially, but also have the time and the flexibility to do the other things that I want to do. So something I'm doing now, something I'm working on now. I just started with a new networking group up in Newtown. Okay. Pretty cool story that me and my wife Valerie were taking our pre-marriage classes, and the instructor actually was an insurance agent. Okay. So I got to know her, and she happened to be getting a job in New York, and was moving away. So she said, "Hey, look, I have this networking group. It's a great referral source and everything, and they're going to need an insurance guy now. Yeah. How would you like to come up and meet?" And I met with them, and it turned out great. Yeah. So now I'm going to be going next week, and I'm going to be their dedicated insurance guy. This is a group with realtors, with mortgage people, with all everybody across the entire spectrum, and I'll be the dedicated guy. And apparently, from what she had told me, that they provide good, top quality leads and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's real nice, something good, that from a marriage class that I didn't even want to go to. You can't beat it,
Right.
So yeah.
Well, our episode 120 titled Networking, we talked a lot about that. And, one of the things that we mentioned is, you never know who people know.
Yeah.
And that the whole 6 degrees, of separation, but there's the times that you don't want to do something, as you mentioned, that's for whatever reason, bigger things come out of that you still go through, right?
Yeah.
Some of the best workouts you'll have is the ones where you wake up, you don't want to go to the gym or whatever. For example, this past Saturday, my family here caught the bug. It was like this 24-hour bug. It started, I guess, Thursday with my son, my wife. That led into Friday. She called out. I mean, we're all on an hour and a half, sleep because my son is, just vomiting all over me and himself. So I'm up trying to take care of him because my wife's sick. She's trying to take care of herself, and we're both just kind of going back and forth. And so obviously, naturally, I caught it. So it was going from that, that Friday all day leading into Thursday morning. Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, I had this event to basically promote and be a vendor at a craft show for the Bless line. And I'll be honest with you, I did not want to go. I should say physically, I did not want to go. I was just not there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is brutal. But anyway, I'm like, I know I got to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to suck it up, and it is what it is. Man, I drug myself there. I parked in the wrong parking lot. My brother couldn't meet me for like another hour. But by the time he had to be there, or he could get there, my whole setup had to be done because then we had a time constraint that you had to meet. And so I'm like, wow, I really got to pull this off, like literally by myself, carrying these bins from one corner of the wrong parking lot, because by the time I went to the right parking lot, it was full. So then I pulled back around and just park where I was, because otherwise I wasn't going to get any kind of parking, because you just saw droves of people. This is a pretty big event. There was like 100. I mean, it was sizable. There's 100 vendors for an indoor event. That's pretty good.
Oh wow.
So, Gabe knows from the events that we've gone to where there's a whole 2 vendors, and we were one of the 2. But anyway, so I set this whole thing up. All of a sudden I was getting better. Like just me by myself, it was like me working through. I'm like, no, good. I'm glad I got to go here. I'm glad I made the trip. I'm glad I got over that mental blockage. I'm here. My whole mentality is I'm here. I might as well make the best of it, right? Yeah, so I'm like, turn on the smile, turn on the positive energy. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like hyping myself up. So boom, there goes a day. My brother comes in, and I'm already set up. I'm sitting down. I already even walked around to see all the other vendors or whatever. And I will tell you, one of the best decisions I made was to still get up and still go through it. Even though I didn't want to, man, I handed out my business cards so many times that I went into my backup stash that I forgot I brought, that I forgot I packed, and thankfully did, and made connections, got other business cards, got other people who are wanting to invite me to their, their shows and all this other stuff. And I'll tell you, and sales were great. So I'm like, imagine if I didn't go just because I didn't feel like it. Yeah, physically. Yeah, like I said, I had a virus.
It would have been easy.
It would have been so easy. I could have just been laying around, playing video games, whatever, with my son, because that's whatever he wanted to do. But instead, I left the family because I had to, and because I wanted to, because the dream and the vision's much bigger than a bug.
Absolutely.
Right? And I always think about that. I always think about what's stopping you. Are you going to let this bug stop you, right? This little virus stop you from, attaining your goal? That was one thing I heard a long time ago, 10 plus years ago, where it was like I was in a recruiting business. And one of the mental tricks that we play with ourselves is we tell ourselves this person doesn't want to know about your business. This person doesn't want to know about what you have to say. They don't care that you're an expert. You're soliciting them, right?
No, absolutely.
That's something that's just, it plays in your, no one even said that's what you're doing, but in your mind, it for some reason it's just flying back and forth. And one of the tricks they gave us was one that I literally still use to this day, and it's, are you really going to allow that person, because that's the person that's stopping you, right? Because you're scared of them. You're scared of what they're going to say. You're scared, that fear. You're really going to let that person stop you from attaining your goals and dreams? Is it that simple? because then you really don't want it. And that little trick that I use, I mean, we did great in that business. We moved on for, you know, bigger reasons, but it was that thing that still to this day sticks with me. And I just mentioned it naturally, and I haven't said that story in a while, but that's what it was. It was like, you're going to let that bug stop you? I'm like, nah, forget this. I'm going, you know, and just go. But I don't know if anyone can use that, but I know that was one of the things that I use literally every single day. All right, cool. So we did mention, you know, the Facebook groups that you're involved in and, you know, you wanting to create value. Can you just mention a few that you're involved in and you know, what keeps you motivated to keep them going?
Yeah, absolutely. The one is I have a group for small business owners and entrepreneurs. Why I keep it going, what keeps me motivated is I've seen the results.
Yeah.
And these groups, they're great because you could it's almost like you're almost like the mayor of your own little town, kind of. You kind of run the show.
Yeah.
You know, and I see the value from it, not only, you know, as an insurance agent from direct business that I've gotten from the group,
sure,
but just from the positive influence I've had. You know, every day I hear from this guy, oh, you know, you're that guy who does that group, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, how'd you hear about me? Oh, my cousin's this, cousin's that.
Nice.
Whatever, does that. And he's always posting real good stuff. And they said, give me a call. Mind you, the person who referred me has never even called me, but they're referring me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can see that, you know, you're maybe not get direct business right away from having a group like that, but with time, with patience, it starts to snowball. Because I can guarantee that person who hasn't called me, they're going to call me eventually.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, and then the other group we have is the one for the Latino community. I just kind of noticed it. I said, you know, I was just kind of looking through Facebook one day, noticing I was looking for a Latino group in the area, and there wasn't one.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm going to make one.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And it's turned out to be a big hit, and people getting use out of it. And when I'm at Sunday Mass, I have some random person I don't even know say, oh, I really appreciated you posted this, a job fair or something. I ended up going. I got a job. Or,
nice.
You know, stuff like that. Like, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do is be a value to the community.
Yeah.
Like I said, it allows you to kind of be the mayor of your own little kingdom. And you know, it kind of helps you control and keep out the nonsense a little bit, and keep it and make it for, you know, because we're all in other groups,
right?
That you can't control as much, and you can kind of see the nonsense that's on there. So kind of running your own, you make it exactly how you want it, and there's just so much value there. So, you know, if anybody, especially if you own a business, if you're in any type of sales or anything like that, consider doing it. I've seen other insurance agents do it. I've seen other sales professionals do it. You know, create a group. It doesn't have to be anything related to what you do. If you love dogs, create a dog lovers group. And, you know, something. Just figure something out, and you'll with patience and time, you'll get a lot of positive results out of it. Yeah.
I think the power is magnified because, you know, we all know, you mentioned it, and I'll just put it in, you know, layman's terms here, but it's word of mouth. Everyone knows just in conversation. So, you know how we go back to, you know, you are who you hang out with. Okay, so word of mouth says, well, he's wearing, you know, this, you know, particular brand hat. Do you not notice within like a month or 2 months, all of us will end up be wearing, you know, whether he gave it to me as a gift and I'm like, oh, this was pretty cool. And then Gabe's like, oh, well, them two are wearing it. Maybe I should look into it. And it literally goes like that. That's a form of, you know, word of mouth. Well, that now has become that's where Facebook comes in. People wonder why, you know, Facebook ads and all this other stuff, why they're so effective. And these groups, why they're so effective is because it's just a virtual reality version of the word of mouth conversations that we have and still have at the dinner tables or, you know, at parties or whatever it is, social event that we're at. But it's almost like instantaneous. That's what the wild part about, you know, Facebook and, you know, social media is, because I could be at work and someone shared something and I could come home and just go through my timeline and I didn't miss that conversation, right? So where I can be basically everywhere and in everyone's conversation, but not physically being there.
Mm-hmm.
But previously, you have to be part of that group or part of that conversation to even get that.
Absolutely.
It is such a I don't even know if people understand how powerful that alone is.
Well, going back to what we were saying about the misconceptions of, insurance agents are like used car salesmen. Why those groups are so powerful, and just Facebook, social media in general, is the trust it builds.
Sure.
Like, you're friends with me on Facebook. You see that. I get a couple insurance posts here and there, but a lot of the time it's about stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Especially in the groups, and you build a trust. So at a certain point, maybe a year down the road, they're like, you know what? When they're maybe shopping their insurance, man, I'm gonna talk to him. Man, I like what he posts. I like this stuff. He seems like a real guy. He's got a beautiful daughter. And I've seen how he is as a real person. So he's no longer Joel the insurance agent who's just trying to sell me a policy. He's Joel the human, who happens to sell insurance.
Yes,
and that's what social media does. It builds that trust.
Absolutely,
and it's been great.
Absolutely, absolutely. The power of social media, and like I said, it's your brand. So what you're putting out there, and you mentioned it too earlier, saying if you like dogs, have a dog lover group. It doesn't matter. As we always mention, success principles are the same across the board, no matter what industry you're involved in. How you do one thing is how you do everything is an old quote that we learned, right? So if your car is always dirty and sloppy, I'm not saying everything else is dirty and sloppy, but something in your life is also dirty. It could be your thought process, right? Yeah. How you treat others. You might not even see it. You might not even realize it. But again, going back to that's your brand. So if people see that you're part of this dog lover group and you are the mayor of this group and you are a total, J.O., then people are like, man, this guy's off his rocker and took this whole power thing, as we mentioned on this Forbes article, to a whole other level. It's how you're going to use and abuse that is up to your discretion, but just realize that's your brand. And so now we sit back and we think, now this guy's pitching me insurance. Do you all remember how he was on that puppy lover group? Imagine what he's going to do to my insurance policy, right? So you're right. It's absolutely, it goes across the board. So how you are with your family, how you are with, the things that you post and the groups that you're in control of, people are going to say, all right, this guy's a good guy across the board, right? So he has a little family thing going on. He has a successful business. He runs all these other, Facebook groups. He's an activist for this. This is fantastic. Yeah, I want to get an insurance policy off this guy. I trust him. His brand built that, right? But if you're just a nut job posting that you just pray, what's that gem game that people play and it keeps popping up that they won or something? They got
they keep sharing. I forget the name. There's a few of them. There's a bunch.
When Facebook first came, it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. That was like this huge thing. They kept
Candy Crush or something.
Yeah, Candy Crush. There you go. It was like one of those weird games that it kept popping up like on your news feed. It's like, yeah, I really don't want to buy a policy off this guy. You know what I mean? Like it's like this guy's just playing games all day. But absolutely. So that's hilarious. But yeah, the power of social media is wild. All right. So last question. We like to sum things up with the family thing. Most of us here are dads. Most of us here are obviously relationships and all that. But for you, this is one of my favorite questions I like to ask our guests. How do you handle work-home balance with the family?
That's always at the basis of everything I'm doing. Yeah. And I'm sure that's the same case for most of you guys. Sure. Part of the reason I, like I said previously, got into the industry where being in insurance provides me the luxury to have that flexibility with my time. So it allows me to, if my daughter has a field trip or anything like that, I can go. I can always be there for everything she has going on. Yeah. Everything I'm doing in the nonprofit space, I try to have her involved. If I'm doing a fundraiser that day, she's with me. Awesome. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want her there because she's only going to be 6 for so long. She's only going to be a little kid for so long. Sure. And you have kids. You know how fast they grow. Definitely. So it's always important of just the time that I do have her, the rare times I have nothing going on, I try to spend with her and my wife. Yeah. So like I said, it's always finding that balance, always making sure you prioritize spending time with her. Yeah. Spending time with your family. It's important. You need it. Sometimes you just nothing business related. You just need to diffuse. Even if it's something as simple as just laying in bed watching Netflix, that's some of the best time you spend. You know?
Oh yeah,
you know. Yeah,
oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what it is. You know, just always making it a priority. Always making it a priority.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, cool. So there you have it, folks. Joel Berrocal. Real quick, can you give us our audience, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can always call me at my office, 215-781-8100, extension 4. I'm always there at normal office hours. I think the easiest way to find me is on social media. I'm on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All my handles are the same, just my first and last name, Joel Berrocal. So look me up.
Perfect. All right. As usual, Joel, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we like to end our episode with quotes, and the first one is by Anita Roddick. If you think you're too small to have an impact, try going to bed with a mosquito. And the second one, Jane Fonda. Instead of drifting along like a leaf in a river, understand who you are and how you come across to people and what kind of impact you have on the people around you and the community around you and the world, so that when you go out, you can feel you have made a positive difference. All right, so there you have it, folks. Impact. In this episode, we had special guest Joel Berrocal. The crew talked about influence and impacting others. We talk about hurricane relief, the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, entrepreneurship, and much more. We wrapped the episode up with quotes by Anita Roddick and Jane Fonda. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.